introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are and how long you've been here, personal and professional.
My name is Doug Moore. I've been here for 10 years. I moved here from St. Augustine, Florida for work. I came over during the Great Recession. I was an attorney at a law firm in St. Augustine, and one of our clients was a local community bank, Prosperity Bank, and they were in St. Augustine and here in Panama City. And they brought me on because before I was an attorney, I was also a commercial lender, and so I knew legal and lending, and they needed somebody that could work with businesses and try to help them with the workouts of the loans. And so I did that on the East Coast, and they asked me to move here for what was a temporary position, and 10 years later, I am still here. I now own my own business. I started it 3 years ago called the Panhandle Group. I left banking, and I use my law degree now to help small business owners, cash flow, budgeting, finance, contract needs, different things such as that. And I also work as a court-appointed receiver and mediator as well.
Well, you have a lot of experience. Well, why are you running for office?
Well, when the storm hit, when Hurricane Michael hit us, I was actually chair of the Chamber of Commerce, and I was at the EOC when the storm made landfall. And I attended church with Joby Smith, who was the emergency management chief at the time. And Joby said, Doug, I need somebody that I can trust to serve as my liaison, basically be my right hand, and help me be able to focus on the big picture recovery stuff and keep all the other stuff off of me, make sure people know where they're going, and connect the incident management teams that were coming in from out of state to help us with our recovery and put them with locals and work with the municipalities and everything along those lines. So I started that. I closed my business for a month and just did and served at that as a volunteer. And then about the middle of November, I left and went back to work. And then because of the work that I did, I was engaged as a subcontractor underneath CDR McGuire to continue as a community liaison, just to continue to be able to make sure that each of the small cities, all the municipalities in the county had the same information, that we were providing, that whatever was coming from the state down to the county, I disseminated it out, made sure that everybody knew what was going on, to try to make sure that each of the municipalities was informed and could make decisions on behalf of their citizens.
And you mentioned trust at the beginning of that answer, which brings us to the next question. The reason this seat is open is because the person who had it has been charged allegedly in the corruption scandal that the FBI is investigating. So how important is trust? In light of all that's happening, you know, viewers and voters are watching now for who's running for office.
Whether it's an election or whatever it is, trust should be primary, and it's always been at the forefront of everything I've done. I was on the farm that I was raised on. I was taught two very simple principles: tend to your business and be a man of your word. If you cannot be trusted, even in the smallest thing in business, how can you be trusted in anything that you do? And so where I come from on that is that's actually my primary thing, is to restore the public's trust in elected officials here locally. And by doing that, being transparent, engaging with them, listening to them, letting them vent. And that's one of the things while I was at the EOC that you had to do, is part of that venting is they're going to take a piece of you from time to time because they're upset about things. The key is to listen to what's being said, not just the anger, but why is it there, and to try to listen to them and work with them and try and help resolve the problem. From my standpoint, I think it's of the utmost importance that we restore the public's trust in the elected officials. And my view of it is, you're a steward. You're serving for the benefit of the community. You're serving at their pleasure. They are the ones that are going to elect you. It's not anybody else. It is each individual citizen that's going to vote for whichever one of the candidates they believe will do the best job for them. And then from that, I really do believe that we need to focus upon the fact of helping the community through being that steward and understanding that we need to manage our resources, manage our funds and everything for the benefit of the greatest majority.
Now, on the issue of transparency, everybody says that. We want to be transparent. If I win, I'm going to be transparent. What does that mean to you exactly?
What that means to me is you engage with the people, you talk with them, you make sure they understand why. Why are we doing what we're doing? Why is the county going to be doing and taking these steps, taking these actions, and being willing to answer the questions. Taking the time again to listen, because that to me is where the transparency begins. People don't care how much you know until they know that you care about them. And so you've got to be willing to listen to what their concerns are, and then turn around and be able to engage back and say, okay, I've heard your concerns. Here's where we could do something, or here's where we couldn't do something. But from that, from my time in special assets, I was dealing with a lot of business owners that were in a lot of trouble. And it was not of their creation, but yet nonetheless there we were. And I've learned that you have to be willing to have that hard conversation with respect, but be able to go through on that.
All right, and you worked a lot during Hurricane Michael, you mentioned earlier. How do you see the county continuing to recover? Because a lot of folks are it's still not back to where it should be.
Right after the storm, when I sat in one of the first meetings there, one of the gentlemen next to me was over in Pensacola and was involved in Hurricane Ivan, and he looked at me and he said, it's going to be a minimum of 5 years before you are where you were the day before this hit. And the problem, and unfortunately it is on such a massive scale, that there are a lot of things that happen, but people don't always see it. When I worked at the bank, people that worked underneath me, and then also in my current position and those that work with me and for me, I always say, we deal with it on a daily basis. We know where things are, we know what's going on. We need to make sure we communicate that to our clients, to our customers, because they don't know everything that's going on. And I think that's something that we could attempt to do better. But I know that there's been a lot of efforts and a lot of things going on, but the problem is the scale of the destruction is such, it takes a long time to get everything in motion and to get it going. And we're only 2 years in based on what he said, and we've got at least another 3 to go.
The issue of attracting new business. Everybody says they're still working on that. The EDA to bring companies here to create more jobs, and that'll help us recover faster. How do you see attracting new businesses? Do you believe in offering incentives to get companies here?
That's a tricky situation. I think it depends upon exactly what they're going to bring, but I think the way that the commission has done it to date has been a smart way to do it, which is you have to perform, and after you have hit certain metrics, then things will be on the backside that it comes into your benefit. That you're not giving things up front on a promise, but that people have to perform. They have to bring in X number of jobs, and only when they hit certain metrics a couple years down the road do they actually receive the benefit of the tax abatements or anything along those lines. When I was chair of the Chamber of Commerce, we were very active with the EDA in trying to do things to help recruit businesses in and to create an environment along those lines. We have a wonderful company here in town, Eastern Shipbuilding, that has got the contracts for the Coast Guard cutters as well as the Staten Island ferries and other things. You know, we have somebody here now that is actually bringing in other companies because of the contracts they have. We need to be working to provide training for their types of employees, from pipe fitters to welders and things such as that, that are, while they are blue collar jobs, they are very well paying jobs that you can get $70,000 to $90,000 if you have the proper training and can do it as a welder. So I mean, there are a lot of different opportunities that exist. I think that's the other part of it, is trying to work to try to get that message out to the locals as well. I serve on the board of Haney Foundation, and that's one of the reasons why I got involved with Haney, is to try to promote this type of thing to people that are either looking for a career change or coming out of high school and understanding you don't have to go to college to be successful. You don't have to go to college to be able to provide a good life for your family.
All right, what about priorities? If elected day one, what is Commissioner Moore going to do for us?
Day one is going to be, again, restoring public trust is, to me, of paramount importance. Infrastructure is something that's very important from the standpoint of, we have a lot of, when I say infrastructure, that's roads, that is infrastructure as in water, piping it around, and sewage and things along those lines. We do have issues with traffic out on the beach existing currently. With all the development that's going to be coming to District 4 in that area, if you drive up 231 or north of 77, you see a lot of it coming. We need to get in front of that. We need to be doing things to make sure that we are addressing and taking the time to plan properly to be able to make sure we don't experience the same issues we have on the beach right now, and we can take care of our citizens.
All right, and trust, again, it's important, and it's come up again. You mentioned it in your answer. So let's talk about trust and perception and reality because of the way this position became open.
Yes, ma'am.
Over the years, for 40 years at least, there have been these private dinners that are for all men in the northern part of the county, which I believe is District 4, coincidentally enough. Have you ever attended one of those?
I have, actually, yes, ma'am. When I first came here, I was invited, and I was told that was a good way for me to be able to get to know and meet some people. And so I have attended some from time to time, yes, ma'am.
Will that change if you're elected?
Yes, ma'am, it would actually, because of the perception. I don't think anybody that would be a vendor of the county, and if I got into that seat, I can't, in good conscience, I can't do that because I don't want to put the people in the position of wondering, what am I up to? Am I taking a benefit, or am I doing something untoward in that regard?
Because perception is reality.
For a lot, it can be, but I think it's also the proper thing to do from the standpoint of, I'm a homebody by nature anyway. I like to go home, I read, I study, and I do a lot of my work, so it's not like I'm a social butterfly anyway. But from that standpoint, it's one of those things that I think is important for the community overall to know that they have trust and confidence. And I just don't think, especially with what is alleged and what's happened, that it, for lack of a better way of saying it, passes the smell test.
All right. Now, do you believe you have any conflict of interest in your personal or professional life that would change after you got elected?
Well, as I mentioned to you, I serve right now as a subcontractor. So should I get the opportunity to be able to serve, I would resign that right then as of that point in time, because that would be a conflict.
All right. Let's talk about donations to your campaign.
Yes, ma'am.
There's $1,000 from the St. Joe Company, which does business with the county. You have at least 5 that I counted as of yesterday that are from out of state. Tell me a little bit about your campaign and what those donations are from and what they mean, or what they will mean if you're elected.
Well, there's a lot of different ways that could be taken, but I will say this, is I sat down with St. Joe and I talked to him and I said, as a commissioner, my first job is to protect the interest of the property rights of everyone. Not just St. Joe, but the mom and pops, the people that live in the neighborhoods close to them, and different things along those lines. My view is you work with, but you do it in such a way that the commission has to protect the people. But we do need development. So we have to figure out a way to work with a private property owner like St. Joe that's trying to develop and trying to bring affordable housing, workforce housing, and nicer housing and new commercial ventures to our community. I think it's wrong to completely demonize them for what they are trying to do, as long as we make them work within the system and we make them work in a way that benefits the entire community and covers infrastructure and other things such as that.
Well, I don't think it's demonizing them. They have done a lot for the community. They own all the land. But again, because of the way this position came about and the current FBI investigation, I think people, again, we're back to that perception. That could be perceived as they may have your ear when they come to the county for something with a request. So how do you balance that?
I think you balance it by what I said is, where I grew up in South Georgia, the entire population of the county I grew up in is 2,900 people max, maybe. That county has never had a stoplight. And so the people that live in District 4, I can relate to the rural and the very, I don't know of a better way to say it, but a very rural and a very country feel. It's part of the reason why I moved there, is I enjoy it. It reminds me of where I grew up and it reminds me of where I've come from. To that end, I think inside of that is what I said to you in my answer before, is you've got these people that live around St. Joe, that their property rights are just as important as St. Joe's. They need to be listened to. Will I treat them any differently than I do St. Joe? No, ma'am, I won't, because everybody is an individual. Everybody has the exact same right. And I don't think that just because St. Joe has this, that I'm going to lean one way more than the other. I think one of the things that you need to pay attention to inside of this when you're elected is, what is the maximum benefit for the greater good of the community? And there's going to be some people that are always going to be a little bit ruffled, and they're going to say, oh, you're doing that, and I can't worry about that perception. I have to do what I believe to be the right thing. And so from that, I'm very much focused on trying to make sure that what we do is for, as I've said in every meeting, and I'm bouncing a little bit and I apologize, but in all my meetings when we've done the recovery work, is the goal is to try to get that Venn diagram, those circles, to overlap as much as possible to make sure that we help the greatest good of our community. And if we can do that in a way that is beneficial for a St. Joe, for another private property developer. There are a lot of out-of-town developers that have come in and are looking at different things of trying to do business, trying to bring in workforce housing, affordable housing. I think it's incumbent upon us to try to work with them, because that's the area of our community that needs housing the most, and we need to make sure that we're trying to find ways to be able to assist them.
Now, we're talking about having someone give you money for your campaign. There is an ethics class or something that candidates take, or is that after you're elected?
It's after you're elected.
All right. Have you looked through any of that?
Well, I'm licensed by the Florida Bar, and so I have to go through their ethics training, and every 3 years we have continuing legal education, which requires ethics and different things along those lines. When I was working for the bank, we had to go through ethics training and everything along those lines. I haven't gone specifically to look at what the state ethics are, but you know, from where I was raised and what I was taught, my ethics are going to be, you know, I had a grandfather who passed away right after I graduated from high school, and he told me if I ever did anything to ruin his reputation, he was going to come back and haunt me till the day I die. That's something that might be hokey to some, but that lives and resonates inside of me, that I carry his name, and his name meant something where I came from. So it means something to me, and I can't do something to ruin the reputation of either my grandfather or my father who gave me his name.
Do you currently live in District 4?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay. Do you know what the Bay County budget is currently?
If I remember correctly, I think it was just passed at $387 million.
That's close. That's close enough, right? Have you ever attended a county commission meeting?
Quite a few, actually.
You've been through them.
I've actually had to make presentations at them. I was past chair of the Infrastructure Surtax Committee and used to have to do presentations to them on a quarterly basis of what we had gone over inside of our committee work.
How do you feel about how the current county commission has handled the whole COVID-19 pandemic?
I think they've done the best they can based on the situation. I mean, there are so many competing things going on, and again, you've got individual rights versus community rights and where all those things are. I think it is very easy to be an armchair quarterback when you're not the one having to deal with it, but we have a tourist economy and we have a lot of people who are dependent upon those types of jobs, and so we needed to be able to do things for the benefit of the entire community. I think as individuals, it's incumbent upon us to do smartly, but to also trust the judgment of them. And I think at the beginning, when we didn't know, I think they made the right decisions when we were all learning what this was. But I think you have to trust people to make the right decision, and ultimately, you know, again, individual rights.
All right, and getting back to the whole trust factor and the FBI investigation, which doesn't involve you, but it's why the seat is open. Have you ever had a run-in with the law, or have you ever been arrested?
No, ma'am. The only thing that I have ever had is a speeding ticket when I was a teenager, and then one time in my mid-20s when I wasn't paying attention, and I did 50 and a 35.
I think we can all maybe fess up to that. All right, tell us, last question, why should voters choose you?
I've been actively involved in this community for the last 5 to 6 years through chamber leadership, working on the Tyndall rebuild, working at the EOC, and then afterwards on the community's recovery. I am very cognizant and aware of the issues that are going on. I've been involved in a lot of the decisions. I've been sitting at the seat with what I jokingly refer to as the federal and state alphabet soup of agencies. And I know who to talk to. I know who the people are that can help make things happen for the benefit of our community, and which people can slow things up. I have been involved in helping the municipalities, and I've built strong relationships across the municipalities with their leadership, both admin and elected, to let them know, and they do know, that my focus has been for the benefit of the community. Anybody that's ever sat in a meeting with me, people will talk county, people will talk city, and I will stop every one of them. I say, no, we're not individual, we are community. If we can't work together, all of us, then we're not going to win. We're going to fail, and we're going to have issues. But Callaway is just as important as Panama City Beach. Fountain is just as important as Panama City. People need to know that you care about them.
All right, well, we appreciate your time. Candidate for District 4, Doug Moore, good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate you doing the interview.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it very much.